Hey everyone, so in this video I'm just going to go through some war film from the last Blitz war. It's going to be a variety of war clips from different matches based on what I was recording at the time. It's going to show some wins as well as some losses, I believe. I believe that's the most accurate way of showing how a war actually goes, because no matter who you are, you're going to have some losses in war. At least that's what I believe, because RNG just plays such a huge factor when you end up battling, and understanding that and accepting losses sometimes is an important part to learning and to growing as a player. Firstly, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more content and information about the game. Now, this type of defense is one of the defenses that I hate the most. Whenever I see a Mercer lead, I know it's going to be a difficult defense, and I'm going to have to think, because I never know which tunes of mine are going to be stunned or what tunes of a defense team are going to be stunned if I end up running my Mercer lead. It's just so difficult to predict and so difficult to adjust, because you can have one tune stunned, you could have 5 tunes stunned, same as the defensive team, and it just creates a lot of confusion as well as inconsistent attacks in play. You really have to adjust on the fly, so you need to have a good amount of control as well as power on your attacking team. So this is a combination of both weapons and mods, and it can be one of the most challenging things in my opinion, because you could have the right tunes, but if you don't have a specific mod that resists an ability like Mercer's stun, then you could end up stuck. And it's not stuck because your team wasn't put together right regarding the tunes, but stuck because your mods failed you or your weapons failed you. And a lot of that just comes down to chance. Now in this current match, I know it's taking me a while to beat this team, but I also know that there's a decent chance that I'm dead after this attack anyway. I know that my best bet is using Gal's Bleed to bleed out Leopo, because she's a very tanky tune, and whenever she rushes, she dazes me, she impairs me, and she attack downs me. So whenever I have a chance to use Gal, I think he is a great asset because he can bleed as well as burn based on his active skill as well as his rush, which is indirect damage. So right now, by applying that bleed onto Dr. Stevens as well as Arav, it also gives my team some attack. And this is a team that I use when I need a little bit more control than power. So as you see, I have Glenn in as well as Cole instead of Diego and Xander. And part of this is because Cole has a great ability of taunting the enemy, but also causing attack down. So by cutting the opponent's attack, it can be really effective against tunes like Rampage, Priya, and Arav. So if he gets a kill off, then he also has the follow-up ability. So he has the potential to kill many enemies once he starts to rush or once he gets a kill. Now this defensive team is very strong. We see double Pete, so it's quite tanky. You have a Mercer lead, you have Frost for protection, and you also have Priya for damage. Now my Priya with Rampage was able to do a high percentage of damage, and here it's just me against Frost. And the biggest threat with Frost right now is that if he rushes, he is going to revive someone. And the likelihood of that tune being Pete is probably quite high. So my best bet is to kind of control him so that he can't rush before killing him with my Priya. If you notice in some matches, even if I have a rush, I won't always use it because I know I need to use their rush the next turn in order to control them or to apply some buff to my team or debuff to their team. And there's a lot of thinking that goes into it. Now, this match did not start out well. Having Princess rush on the first turn kind of ended it for me at the start, and it's not the type of match I want to continue. I like to win fast or lose fast. Anything in between is just usually a waste of time, and if I stay on one person for too long, then I'm probably going to die. Sometimes I stay anyway if I'm assuming that I'm already dead, just because, if I'm going to find my camp in flames, I may as well try to take someone down with me. Now, the biggest downfall, I think, to a Mercer lead is that there's no HP or defense bonus, and when people go with an attack defense, like that last one could have been a turn 1 attacking defense team because of the double command Arav and Priya. it ends up being a little more fragile. And with it being fragile, it means if I get my Priya going, I have a decent chance at winning. And with my Gao, I have a good chance at that on the second turn because of his active skill, which gives plus 60% AP. And because, as you know, conventional AP rules, the rich get richer, I can manipulate who gets that AP. And that's what I try to do on my attacking team by changing what weapons certain toons have, including sometimes just defending on a turn instead of straight out attacking. One of my biggest pet peeves with my attack team is that when Priya dies because of reflect or sometimes bide, payback, and so on, it can draw out a match longer than I want it to. But at some point, you also need to get used to taking down some of these very tanky and difficult teams with the latest toons. It's the only way that you're going to learn and actually get better, and it can be very frustrating sometimes because you're really just depending on luck and chance and time is never on your side. You're always working against the clock, and the more time that you take in a match, the less time you have to score more points on a different person. So it's frustrating, but it's also necessary. These last two toons are not exactly the most difficult toons to take out, but I don't have much of a damage dealer anymore. Mercer is my only one and he has defensive set mods. I'm going to rely on Gao here if I can get him unimpaired, just because of that bleed as well as the burn damage on his active skill can be very useful at taking out some of these tanky toons. It's a little slow because it's not a high amount of bleed. It's only 850 and the burn damage I believe is 600. So it does take some time, but it is effective. Now I'm going to have time to make one last attack. This defensive team is a turn 1 defense team, so if the two Maggies were not controlled, one or both of the Arabs were going to go off. And the point of using that angel is to prevent me from having turn 1 control unless I have that Mercer lead or some other toon with a daze resist. So this is the type of team where it's hit or miss. You either have some RNG luck at the beginning or you don't. The amount of RNG that can factor into a fight is huge, and it's almost impossible for some players to compete at times. I know that before I had Rampage on my Priya, it was very difficult for me to compete as well, just because there is such a big difference in strength and power, and Priya with Rampage is a monster. She kills absolutely everyone, and it's actually amazing to me that she has this ability, like that it went through quality checks and stuff, because it just seems like such a big advantage for anyone who has this type of weapon. I know that anyone who has this weapon is saying, I don't want it nerfed, I don't want it changed about how it functions, but there's more people that don't have this weapon than do. And I don't think that they're going to change it, but if they were, it would be to balance it, because there really isn't balance with it, even with the new Rosita toon that's coming out, or that came out, sorry. I just don't think that she is effective enough or available enough for the majority of players to actually use in order to block this crazy powerful toon. And I guess it's more the combination of this toon in general, because Priya on her own is a very good toon, but she is not exactly overpowered. She does do quite a bit, but her biggest counter was reflect. But right now, if you are able to get two Priyas with Rampage and double attack and maybe run a Guardian so that they can take one of those reflect hits without dying, like that just seems to be a winning combination to me, because she's not likely to die then. She is likely to survive any reflect that's coming off, because reflect is not 100%. Unless you're Rosita, her weapon is 100% reflect if her HP is over 70%, I think. But I fully know that I would not be the same type of player if I didn't have my Priya. I would also say the same with Gao. Ever since getting my S-Class Gao, I have turned my attack team into a potential turn 2 attack team. Now, it doesn't always work, but usually by the second turn, I'm able to take out 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes all 5 toons, And that to me is super effective and saves me a bunch of time in matches. By having this extra time, I can obviously score more points. Let me know in the comment section below about if you have Rampage and what your opinion on it is. Because if Rampage was only given to a toon like Angel, no one would be talking about it because it's not effective on her as a toon, but with Priya, her kit makes it work super, super well. And now when we jump back to the battle, I'm actually going to show you guys an auto attack of my team. So I'm just going to leave it on auto. You see, like, both teams have toons that are stunned. On this second turn, if I was manually using it, I would have gotten Diego to rush on that turn because he already had 30 AP. So if I had used Gao, then he would have gained the full amount of AP for 76, and he could have rushed on the center toon. And it's possible I would have not lost my one character. I wouldn't have lost Gao. But we won't know now, of course. I just wanted to show you guys that this attack team has actually let me auto some teams. And I'm not a huge fan of using auto, but I know that sometimes it is necessary because, you know, you get busy sometimes, you're doing other things, and you can't pay attention to exactly what's in front of you. So I'm just going to replay that last match at slow speed just to kind of explain what's going on. So as you see, I stunned 4 toons to start in that first turn. This first turn for me, I was able to build some AP on a couple of my important toons. I used Gao's active skill to give them the rest of their AP that they need. I used Diego to defense down them, and I'm not exactly sure why Diego's the only one that took the payback damage. That to me is a little confusing and seems like a bug. Now, when Mercer rushed after the defense down, I received payback on multiple toons, but no one died. And part of that's because Shiva is too powerful as an S-class toon. Even when my Priya rushed her, she didn't trigger payback. And that to me is a big problem because the reason players put Shiva on a defensive team is so that she triggers payback and deters people from rushing her. Now, if I'm able to rush her with my Priya and not trigger payback, that to me is a huge problem. It's basically telling me that I have more control over the situation than the defensive team does. And the reason why people got this S-class payback toon is so that people wouldn't use toons like Priya, who once they kill one toon or once they rampage, they have a chance to trigger payback. Now, if I'm not triggering payback even when I land a direct hit on Shiva, that is just an ineffective toon build to me. They have a Mercer lead, so it's not like they were getting a defense buff from the lead, so imagine her behind a Pete lead. I could definitely rush her in most cases, and I don't think that's the proper design of that toon. But that's also my personal opinion, and I don't have her, so she's kind of just written off my list as a toon that I would use, of course. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video to be interesting and a little insightful about how I attack toons in war and teams, especially when it comes to some of the top players and teams in the game. So thank you everyone for watching and listening to my video.